dear friends, and welcome to episode number 3 of my little series called Unexpected Color Combinations. I know it's been a while, and I'm overdue for this video. I've been out of the country, so this video got postponed. Big time. Now, the card that I am going to show you today was a part of Altenew Instagram Hop all the way back in May. And now I'm finally getting it posted here on YouTube. The Instagram Hop was called Flora Fiesta, and I will post a link down below if you would like to check out works of other creators. And that being said, I predominantly used Altenew products for this project. One thing that I need to mention is that this is something that I am so hooked on at the moment, and this is a semi-odd, I should say, card size. I think this probably is the reason because of this, the size of the actual stamp set that I am using, but this card size is 4x7, and it's something between a slimline and an A7 card. I just absolutely love this card set. Now, before I start with showing you the technique I used to create for this project, let me show you the supplies first. For this project, I used this wonderful set called Blooming Delight, and it is a part of Build a Garden collection, and it includes a stamp set with coordinating dies, as well as a matching layering stencil set. On top of that, I made tags. Now, this is a standard thing that I do in this series. The tag dies are from Altenew, and I will be using them in every episode in this series. To create wax seals, I use this beautiful wax seal stamp from Altenew. Did you know that Altenew was the first, well, I should say modern crafting company that started this trend with wax seals? And I know this because I used to give classes on wax seals a few years ago. Now, I am not really sure why this never really took off when Altenew was selling them, and I am not entirely sure if this wax seal stamp is still available to purchase, but I will leave a link down below if it is. Now, for stenciling, I picked only 2 colors. These are Altenew dye inks called Grapevine and Pool, and I also used the blending brushes from Altenew. And last but not least, I used Distress Oxides, Salvage Patina, and Aged Mahogany. So the first thing I'm going to do here is stamping. I used a stamp wheel from Altenew. This tool is not only good for stamping, but also is perfect for stenciling as well. And that is because it has this sticky mat on the inside that you can actually take out of your stamp wheel base and just use it separately. Next, for all of you who have never used layering stencils before, the easiest thing to do is to stamp the image first and then layer the stencils on top of it. Yes, of course you can do it the other way around, but you might have a hard time layering the stamps later on. Or you can also skip stamping, that is okay too. So when you are using stamps for the very first time, I highly suggest you get this stamp conditioning tool from Altenew. This little but mighty eraser is perfect for conditioning your stamps and getting them ready for stamping. Just gently rub it all over your stamps, and that is it. To stamp my image, I used Altenew permanent black ink, This is one of my favorite black inks to use, and need to mention that this ink is also alcohol marker friendly. And I actually found this out recently, and I've been using this ink for so long. So once you're done stamping, it is very important to clean your stamps. Do not let that ink dye your stamps. I like to use rubbing alcohol. Now I know, and I've heard this many times, that rubbing alcohol is actually not good to use in photopolymer, that it will eventually dry out your stamps. And also keep in mind that this sticky mat is made out of photopolymer as well. So Altenew does not recommend using alcohol to clean this mat, and a lot of stamping companies also do not recommend using rubbing alcohol on their stamps. Now, I've been using rubbing alcohol for many years. I haven't had any issues with my stamps actually drying out. And if that happens to you, all you can do is perhaps wash your stamps with some gentle soap, dish soap, and rinse it out. And then later on, just cover it with VersaFine ink or any clear ink. This will also condition your stamps. I personally do not like to use water for cleaning my stamps. Yes, you can do that if that works for you, but at this point, I think it's just a personal preference. One of the best things about the stamp wheel is that you can take the sticky mat out and use it outside the base. This is particularly helpful when it comes to stenciling. Just please make sure your surface is clean. Just attach your card panel to the sticky mat and start layering your stencils. One tip that I can give you when it comes to layering stencils is to position your image or your stamp image the way it is shown on the guide. That way you will know exactly how to position your stencils and you don't have to guess. Now, since I used only 2 colors here for my project, I started off with a very light hand, and as the layers were going on, I would add more and more pigment. This is how you create differences in layers. One more thing you can do to create more interest is to focus on the centers of your images and where the petals meet. These spots are always going to be much darker than the rest of your image. And do not be afraid to leave the tips of your petals white. Remember, not everything needs to be completely covered with inks. For the very center of the flowers and for the leaves, I used color Pool. This is a wonderful shade of turquoise, and it's also one of the newer inks that Altenew released. Once the stenciling was done, I cleaned my stencils with rubbing alcohol and clean microfiber cloth. This will not damage your stencils, just please be careful when it comes to intricate stencils. Sometimes you can bend those intricate edges and damage your stencils that way, so all you need to do is please be careful and very gentle when you're cleaning them. And here it is. This is how the flowers turned out. It's absolutely beautiful. As you can see, you don't need a lot of different colors to achieve something so awesome. All you need is to play with your inks, add more or less, and this is the results that you're going to get. I am going to die cut this image next, and I will be back 1 second your time. I pre-cut a panel out of turquoise cardstock, and I decided to create a background by using one of Altenew's 3D embossing folders. The one that I used for this project is called Crystal Wall. When your card panel is bigger than your embossing folder, the best way to emboss your paper is by doing partial embossing. This technique is the same as you would do with partial die cutting. I'm using Spellbinder's Platinum 8 die cutting machine for this, so please make sure to adjust your embossing sandwich accordingly. First, you're going to make sure that your card panel is straight inside the embossing folder, and then you're going to put the top plate anywhere in front of the edge of your embossing plate and put it through the die cutting machine. Next, take your card panel out and just line it up with the grooves of your embossing folder and repeat the process. And look how beautiful and seamless that looks. And next, I am going to show you how I assembled this card. Assembling this card was a pretty easy thing to do. I ended up putting Altenew dimensional tape on the back of my die cut piece and simply attached it to the card panel. For a sentiment, I used a little hello die from the coordinating die set, and I cut the word using a burgundy cardstock. This is some cardstock that I had from a very long time ago. And then I also cut the shadow of this die by using heavy vellum. I cut my little pieces with Altenew Mini Blossom die cutting machine, and then I attached everything with liquid adhesive, and the card was done. And here we are at the second half of the video where I made a tag that has wax seals. Now, wax seals are an absolute must when I am creating. This wax seal stamp is from Altenew, and I picked some turquoise and burgundy wax seals that I'm going to put melting tools to melt. First thing, what I'm going to do is use Salvage Patina Distress Oxide ink and simply cover this tag completely. Once I was done with ink blending, I put the tag directly on my stamp wheel and stamped the same image that I stamped on my card. I used Altenew Permanent Black ink for this, and once I was done with that, it was time for stenciling. Stenciling was a pretty easy thing to do since there was not a lot of flowers or leaves on this tag, but only pretty much in one big flower. So it didn't really take that long. And just like I did in my card, I am just simply layering my ink here and changing the intensity of that color. I am using here aged mahogany, and the reason I am using Distress Oxide inks for this is because The stress oxides are a little bit different than dye inks, and they stay on top of your paper rather than dyeing your paper like dye inks would. And look at this contrast and look how beautiful that turned out. So here we are at the last and the very best part of my video, and that is wax sealing. So I already pre-mixed and melted my wax here, and it's time to do some waxing. Again, this is Altenew Wax Seal Stamps. I will link it down below if it's still available. And all I did is pour the burgundy wax and stamp. Once that wax is cooled down, feel free to cut it. I used precision scissors to cut around my flower here. And please feel free to reuse and remelt that excess wax. No need to throw it away. Just put it back in your melting pot, and you can also mix it with other wax and see what color you come up with. And here is the cut flower. It looks absolutely beautiful. Now, to make this inlay technique work, you want to put your cut piece of wax back into the seal. Press firmly to make sure the piece is stuck and it won't fall down. Next, get your other wax, pour it on a non-stick surface, and simply stamp. Allow the wax to cool down completely, and as a result, you will get this beautiful two-color wax seal. And the very last thing left is to attach the seal to the tag. For this, I'm using liquid adhesive. This is art glitter glue, but you can also melt a little bit of wax and attach your seals to your projects that way. Just be careful not to melt your seal in the process. And that is it. We are done. These are the projects that I did, and they turned out absolutely beautiful. This color combination is truly unexpected, and you don't really see a lot of it. I hope you like and enjoy this project and feel inspired to create something similar. All the products that I used are listed below, and please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. Thank you again, and see you soon with something new. Bye-bye.